6 months ago, I went to the Casual Connect, and since I'm bootstrapping my VR startup, I didn't have money to pay for the tickets. So I volunteered with my co-founder, and we had other VR and other developers to set up the things. And then I met a Greek guy named Angelo with like long black hair, and after I helped him up setting up everything, we talked a bit about the game he's working on, and then he asked me, hey, wouldn't you like to try my game? I said, sure. So I sat down next to his laptop and I played the game. And it was very well done. It was very smooth, and the graphic was nice, very simple. He was a one-man developer. And I said, hey, good job, you did a really good game. And then I asked him, so what was your goal with this game? He said, yeah, I wanted to learn how to make a game. This was, for me, it was about learning. I said, okay, that's very good, that's very cool. And do you ever thought about actually making money with this game? Do you also want to like release it and make money? He said, yes, sure. And then I said, okay, I thought to myself, maybe I can help him with this. So who of you is developing games? Who of you is developing games to learn how to make games? Just to learn for yourself, just to learn how to make games in general? Okay, then I'm probably not your guy. Who of you is making games just that they want to play themselves and with your friends, and just like something that you enjoy yourself? Okay, then I'm probably also not your guy. And who of you wants to make games that they sell, that they find a big audience and make money afterwards out of that? Okay, great. With my talk, I try to give you a framework how to reduce risks, especially in this fast-moving industry of VR, AR, MR, and give you like a framework, like a mindset, how you approach this, so you can be more successful with this. So I studied business, my background is in business, and my professor actually handed me this book. It's called The Lean Startup. It's by Eric Ries, and he said it's all about the new way of how to think about your processes and how to reduce risks in this really fast-moving industry. And it's about having assumptions, but also testing your assumptions. So I read this book, and this totally changed my life. It changed how I approached my projects from then on. And after my studies, I worked for companies like MTV, Riot Games, and Good Game Studios. And I saw that even in big companies, people were still using a lot of assumptions without actually testing their assumptions, and they're just going on with their own experience, their own way, what they always did. So 1 year ago, I actually founded my own company. It's called Avrlon VR Studio. And since we are bootstrapping this, we invested our own money and our own time. I told my co-founder, Marcelo, he's a Brazilian, I said, we have to be really smart for what we do. We cannot afford to make mistakes like the big companies do. So we have to be smart about how we use our time and about our money. So with this, we basically had to ask ourselves which our efforts are valuable to the end user. What makes sense? Because we all have a lot of assumptions what we might think is cool for the end user, but we don't really know. So we always had to ask ourselves what's really valuable, because of a limited time, limited resources, we had to make sure that we actually create something of value. Otherwise, we would spend months and months in development without actually any result. And then we wasted our time, and then at one point, we would have to go back to work for someone else, something you don't really want to do once you start your own company. So then we had to the first point. Okay, we had our first project. We all sat together in the living room of my co-founder and said, okay, what should we develop? What should we do? So, and one of the things you learn in Lean Startup is how to validate your idea, how to make sure that your idea became successful, or at least to reduce the risk of making a successful game. So they're like the 4 steps. First, you start with the user experience vision. So basically, you make a high-level plan about your game. And I will go through these points more in detail on like a case study of our game that we'll talk about you in a second. Then you have to identify critical assumptions about your game, about your experience, about your software. Then build an MVP, a very easy thing to test these assumptions. Measure then the result of this. Is the community liking it? Is it not liking it? Is there any feedback or no change at all? And in the end, you have to make this crucial decision if you want to pivot to another strategy, to another business, or if you want to continue on and actually go on with the project you started with. So our game is Elemented Combat. It's an element-bending game in VR. And basically, I was, as a kid, also sitting next to the TV, and I was trying to be like the Super Saiyajin mode for like 20 minutes while this show was going on. And I was, of course, it never worked. Also, I waited for the letter from Hogwarts, and it also never came. So I thought, okay, why not giving this power, this feeling of you have like this power to players? So this was our vision for the game, making them as powerful as the childhood heroes on TV. And we had, okay, how do we test this? How do we actually make this assumption that people want to play such a game in VR and they would actually pay for this, because this is the most important thing. Although you can ask your friends, and a lot of your friends would say, hey, this is a cool game idea, that's really nice, really cool. But afterwards you release it, how many of them would actually pay for this? So this is obviously the most important thing to bear in mind. So then we had to build a minimal viable product. I think most of you heard about this a lot. It's the MVP. And it's something that you build very quickly. With very little resources, you don't spend months on this or like thousands of years. You can do it very quickly. You can either use like Facebook ads just with some art about this. You have the, one of my favorite examples is Exploding Kittens. They made like 8 million on Kickstarter with just a video. And it's always important to make it little iterative changes. So you start with the very, very basic things. And this is what we did for Elemented Combat. A very easy thing. Basically, we wanted to show that you can like raise earth bears from the ground. This is a GIF. It's very simple. We did this in like 3 to 4 weeks. This including the time to actually get to know Unreal and everything. And then we just put it online on Reddit, on Imager, on 9gag. And see, okay, do people say any feedback for this? Do people like this? And yeah, actually, we were blown away by the kind of feedback we got. We got like 3.4 million impressions, more than 3.5 thousand comments on the social media, and our website crashed 2 times. And we were just panicking at 3 a.m. in the morning because all the Americans were storming our websites to get our website running. So then we knew, okay, also these are the numbers, but then also we got some really nice comments that, hey, actually we want to play this game. And this gave us the confidence to actually move forward with this project. So this is something that's important for you as well. Try to find a way to validate your project, make a video, make some kind of little prototype, and then just see what people will say about this and if there actually is some feedback. Ideally, you can even get some pre-orders to actually know, okay, people are actually willing to put their hard-earned money on the table to get this. The next important question you should ask yourself, what we ask ourselves a lot, is what if the user doesn't care about the design the same as we do? Like a lot of us have like a lot of experience in making proper design choices, UX choices, but especially in VR, this is a totally new game, right? It's a totally new level. So you don't make big assumptions, you don't make big changes, big features without actually testing them before. So you reduce your risk, and you don't keep like designers and developers busy for months without actually resulting in anything. So what we did after we got this idea validation from the social media, we went and built like a very simple prototype with like a core loop working, everything. It's got like a vodka slice, and we went to the Cuvades to get the first player feedback. And one of my mentors said, you should be afraid, you should be ashamed of the first thing you put out to players. Because nothing is more important than getting the early feedback from them, saying, hey, this is cool, this is what I like about it, this is what I don't like about it. Especially in this kind of, in our community here, people know, okay, this is some early art, things would change. But you know at least that people would like to play such a game, what you want to do. So we got like a really valuable feedback. We realized, okay, people actually really want to do like a lot of movements with their gestures, but we also learned that it's really hard for people to remember all the gestures. So we had to do a lot of changes with this. And so with this, we actually always then, from this point on, we start this build, measure, learn loop. This is very important. It's very important for doing quick changes. So you start with a hypothesis. We think player like A, you make a little change. The game, just fake it. This is called a smoke screen MVP, for example, where just this one thing works, so you actually change the whole thing behind it. And with this then, you build it and then you check. You always check, you analyze the data and see, hey, do players like this or do players not like it? So from this point on forward, you gradually, incrementally improve your game, improve your software. Because if you, once you come to this, hey, I just built and I built the next thing, and you built this huge feature for 6 months, 1 year, you're not going to do this very often until you're bankrupt. And I saw this in big companies happening, that they had big assumptions and they talked very well about this, but if they never tested this and in the end they failed and had to let a lot of people go. So if you want to be successful, always try to in this iterative process to improve your process. And then there's the next big question for you. At one point, you start to develop the game, you have more features, people start to liking it, and then you start improving it more and more. Next question is, should you go on with this project, or should you actually pivot to something else? So you have to decide for yourself, are my changes that I'm doing still giving me a lot of return? Do actually, like, I do this change A and actually have like a big delta, a big change in user base and like player retention in playtime? If you don't see this after several changes, after several iterations, it's recommended that you change either the game design or you change even the game altogether, because otherwise you're just stuck in what you're doing, but actually there's no real return anymore. And then it's more likely and it's way more sure that you will fail with this. So our point right now is we are shortly before the alpha release, so I'm also showcasing it at this hall in the indie pitch. And this was actually one of the most important things. And it's still like, if you change your strategy, always keep your mission in mind, what you want to achieve. You can change a lot, but or if you keep the vision through, then you just have to do small changes in order to stay true to that and be successful. So in the end, ask yourself, which of my efforts are valuable to my user? What do they value? Go to them early on, build something quick and test it as soon as possible. Be ashamed of what you put out there, because then you can get the truest feedback and you know that your efforts are actually not in vain. Also, always question yourself what if my user doesn't care about the design the way I do? Always, like every time you put a new feature in, think about this. Is it assumption? Is it like me thinking this will be cool for the players? And it's only me. I know like my business partner will have a different perspective on this. And always it's true that you keep in mind that all of your ideas, everything is just your ideas from your perspective, what you think will be cool. But other people have like a different background. Right? They have been raised differently. They have a different culture. So they will see things totally different from you. And this is super important to bear in mind. And the last point is, have you developed a build, measure, learn loop in your process? So instead of working for 4 years on a project and not knowing, okay, is there actually player base for this, you start with a very small thing and you start measuring it. So it's important that you have tracking in your process very early on. So you track your most important KPIs. How's the retention? How's the playtime? How much actually do you pay to get users for your game? And can you keep them? And start very early as well, work with the community together, because they play your game. They will be the basis of what you do, or even the software. They will be using your software. So getting their feedback very early on can help you to actually make a better product and reduce the risk of making a product that no one wants to do, or wants to use, or play in the end. Yeah, so this was my talk. In the end, I gave Angelo the tip to actually define the target audience, think, okay, who do I actually want to achieve, who do I want to reach with this, and then start already pushing it out to more players, to actually giving people like demos. And with this, he actually did a lot of changes on the game design that actually improved his game a lot, and I'm still in talks with him. And yeah, I hope this was helpful for you. I'm opening up now to any questions you have about this. Thank you.
If you can just wait for the mic to come to you. Gentleman at the front there.
Yeah, thanks, David. Good talk. So question on lean. So have you had any problems trying to convince your whole team that lean is a good idea? And have you had any people saying, hey, we're not really sure about it? And how did you approach this?
Yeah, like since I have a business background, I always say, okay, we have to ship it now, ship it now. Of course, you always get some feedback from developers, hey, it's not ready yet, it's not ready yet. So it's always to find this middle base. You have to show them that, okay, if you don't test it now, like if you can continue, okay, even if you just take one more day to develop this, if you continue doing this with a lot of features, you're gonna like, it's not gonna be 1 day, it's gonna be then 5 days, it's gonna be like a week, a month. And then 1 month of lag already between, okay, what you put out and what you actually what you develop can mean like a huge, or can be like wages you have to pay extra, and your cost will increase massively. So once you show people, hey, actually, the earlier you test it, the earlier you can actually get the feedback that you do something, the better it is. And so of course it's always hard. And also with my previous companies, I saw that a lot of people start then building MVPs, and this is also very risky. If people start just building MVPs, and they just keep them. So, it works. Let's just go on and it works. It's really fine. Even though the developer just made something very quick just for you to test it. And this can have serious repercussions. So it's important not only to build an MVP then, but also to improve on it. And your engineers will thank you for that.